supremacists are the smartest people.
All right, so I'm listening to Tyriq Nasheed, and I just realized that he's at the same ultra coon levels as a guy like Jesse Lee Peterson, and I will prove it to you. Boop.
We're going to build a system that control all people of color. We're going to do this and do that, and then the people of color have fallen into that.
Great
so
question.
somebody had to be smart and somebody had to be dumb.
Yep.
And it seems to me that the people of color are the dumb one because, as you said, it's the white people who are making this happen, right?
I agree with.
All right, so the ultra coon levels have reached 9,000, or shall I say, white suprema puppets. White suprema puppets. White suprema puppecy have occurred here as Jesse Lee Peterson, a guy who doesn't believe in racism, is teaming up with Sip Skeet half-breed, a guy who married a half-breed female who is Jewish, to talk about white supremacy. And he will admit that white supremacists are the smartest people on earth. Listen to this.
And why not overcome being dumb rather than trying to stop the smart man from doing what he does?
Because non-white people are too dumb to get smart.
Really?
Whoa, who the fuck says this? Non-white people are too dumb to get smart. People are mad at Donald Trump for calling non-white countries a shithole, which he only mentioned like Africa and Haiti. And Africa, they have some non-black countries in there. He didn't say which particular part in Africa. But this guy said non-white people are not smart enough to even get smart.
Yeah, because Neely Fuller, there's a brother named Neely Fuller who said that the white supremacists, and I separate white people and white supremacists. There's three people, as our brother Neely Fuller said, on the planet. You have white, non-white, and white supremacists. The white supremacists are the smartest people on the planet. I 100%
Who the fuck says this shit?
agree with that.
Wow. And God made them that way.
Even Jesse Lee Peterson was like, wow, this shit is... Wow, if you're a white man, you must be very much feeling... Well, if you're a white supremacist male, you must be very much feeling a huge-ass ego. Holy shit.
No, God did.
But Jesse Lee Peterson was taken back. That's how hard the coon levels have reached. I hope Simp Mark Johnson says something about this, or Umark Johnson says something about this, because he gave him massive material.
Make them that way. They just evolved that way because they knew that their numbers were low in the global.
Okay, so now he's talking about the evolving IQ theory, or white people are better because they have higher IQs through evolution.
Game of the planet. So they had to come up with ways to survive, and they had to come up with codes. So they had to codify their actions with each other to dominate the rest of the planet. And people who are non-white, they haven't figured out those codes, and they don't understand that they have to have codes in order to combat that. So we're still fighting over tribal bullshit. And that's our
Wow, he said tribal bullshit, really.
problem as people who are victims of white supremacy. And we haven't been smart enough to figure that out. So I agree with you to that extent.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to do with God, just because somebody's
God
dominating.
made human beings. It would have to have something to do with him.
Well,
if he made white people smart, and you sound like he only made a few white people smart enough to control the world and make people.
Basically, it's the white people who's smart enough to know that they're better than both of these Negroes.
Color do what they want to do.
So if you can dominate people
and control them.
So let me understand what you're asking. So if you can dominate people and control people, God made you smarter.
No, well, there are evil people who can do that too.
Right. So I agree. That's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of white supremacists.
But
they are evil.
Let's not dumb.
But you just said that the white supremacist is the smartest people on earth. So why would you even point this out?
I want to ask, are they holding you back?
You can make a lot of money. They'll do the Bill Cosby thing. They can put all types of crazy charges on you. They can deplete your money. So
are they holding you back financially?
What do you mean, are they holding me back? I'm in a prison called white supremacy.
All right, so here's where Tyriq Nasheed does not know what the fuck holding me back financially mean. I mean, a very thorough and very cold cut question that he cannot answer.
See, that's global. So we're allowed, certain black people are allowed to have certain resources, but they know they can take it back.
All right, so he says certain black people are allowed to have certain resources. So how come he has it? Like, if he's one of these certain black people, why isn't the supposed white supremacy trying to stop his riches?
Tyriq Nasheed back financially.
I'm in a system where they can hold me back.
But right now they're not holding you back.
Well, they can hold me back.
Are they holding you back?
Define holding me back.
You don't know are they holding you back from being successful in your life?
Well, I'm successful because I understand white supremacy, and I'm successful as far as I can be, as much as I can be, because they can stop my success at the drop of a hat. There was Malcolm X was successful until they killed him.
All right, Malcolm X was actually killed by a whole bunch of black people, ironically. So I don't know. And Jessie doesn't know this, so I don't know why nobody called him out for that.
Dr. King was successful until they killed him.
Well,
so I can still.
Oh yes, Dr. King was successful. And he actually passed the Civil Rights Act and actually affected law, which is something that Martin Luther King didn't do. But he affected law mostly due to the white Congress, the white president, the white Senate that helped him out to pass these laws.
Be killed no matter how much money I have.
Are you saying?
So I don't define my success through money.
Right now, they're not holding you back.
Yes, I'm telling you, in a system of white supremacy, they can murder me with impunity right now.
Do you feel that they are?
Wait, what? That's like saying, hey, is cops oppressing you? Well, yes, because in this system they could kill me. Is your father abusing you? Well, yes, because in this system he could kill me. Like, there's a lot of coulds and shit. I guess could counts for oppressing too. Did you get raped? Yes. In this system, somebody could rape me, so yes, I got raped.
Bring me back. There was in Nazi Germany, you had rich Jews going into the gas chamber, so holding me back. Were they held back?
Do you feel that the white...
Yes, the Jews were definitely held back into a gas chamber.
Supremacist male is a better man than you.
No, they're smarter than black people collectively, yes.
Wow, so white supremacist males are smarter than black people collectively. This is disgusting.
Africa. What happened to black people in Africa that they allowed the wealthy blacks to sell them to to the Arabs, and the Arabs went out and sold them around the world? Why, if blacks are so... Were they smart in Africa, or were they dumb in Africa when it was just Africa?
Well, they were smart, and what happened, there was a lot of warfare that happened.
Between the blacks?
Between the Africans. There was a lot of infighting. In any nation or any continent, there's always going to be infighting. There was infighting all over Asia. There was a lot of infighting in Europe. The European...
Yep, that's where the term slave come from. The term slave actually comes from the ethnicity, the Slavs.
Killing each other left and right.
But in Africa,
Africa, there was the same thing. There was a lot of infighting. But the thing is, with Africans, they let other groups come in and infiltrate them. Europe, they didn't really do that. Well, the Moors came in. African black people came in and really civilized the Europeans for a long time. But then they started infighting.
So I guess it's karma. The Moors came into Europe and actually civilized and enslaved their oppressors of the future. So it's just karma. African colonization is just karma. Wow.
Europe. And that's been one of our problems as African people. We do too much damn infighting. So other people can come in and infiltrate us.
So are you aware that in
That's not really infighting. That's more or less getting conquered by other people.
Africa, blacks so other blacks. You're all aware of that, right? Into slavery?
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lie.
You're not aware of that?
Really?
At one point in Africa,
that's like
blacks
saying,
were using other blacks as money. Did you know that?
That's like saying, well, Sheriff Clark is, we should blame him because blacks are in jail in Milwaukee. I mean, he's a victim of white supremacy himself.
All right, so I don't know about Sheriff Clark, but not all of the blacks in jail in Milwaukee is innocent. So you can blame partly them for that if you're gonna put this reference in reference. And actually, most of the black Africans that were enslaved are sold or either from opposing tribes, criminals, derelicts, stuff like that.
The collaborator because he's
Sheriff
subjugated
Clark
to white.
is-
I'm just giving an
Sheriff
example.
Clark is a victim of white supremacy.
Oh yeah, and I'm using him as an example. Just like in
So
Africa
let me
by the
ask-
time. Hold on,
I
let
wanna
me
go back
unpack
to the
that, bro. Let me
question of
unpack
black
that.
All right. So instead of Sheriff Clark being part of white supremacy because he's supposedly in jailing all these innocent people, he's a victim of white supremacy. Got it.
Do they believe there is racism?
They experienced it. No matter if they believe it or not, they experienced it.
But did they tell you that they believe that it's racism, or did they call it something else?
Well, that's the thing, and that's a very good point you made. A lot of times we call it something else because the white supremacists, they like to create false opposition. And really, it's all the same thing. We use terms like segregation, but that's white supremacy. You use terms like Jim Crow, that's white.
Yes, when he says segregation and Jim Crow is white supremacy, he is correct. But you see, Jessie, he doesn't believe in that.
Supremacy. Use terms like fascism. That's another word for white supremacy. All of these things are the same, and we get confused by all these labels.
So did your parents call it something else, or did they call it racism?
Sometimes they refer to it as segregation.
It's interchangeably. You can call it racism, you can call it white supremacy. Either one is correct.
Jim Crow.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, blacks were not angry and demoralized, and they didn't believe that white people had control over them like that. And
When did you grow up? When did you grow up?
I never heard the word racism. They call it segregation, as you said.
That's racism, Jesse.
But they also knew that.
That's racism.
Yes, he is correct. It is fucking racism. Segregation was racism, and it was anti-capitalist.
They also knew that it was good and evil in all cultures.
But where did you grow up? In the 50s and 60s?
Let me just finish this for
But
you.
you got to unpack what you're saying, brother.
Hold on.
Okay.
And so blacks were decent people back then, prior to the civil rights movement,
Right.
and the brainwashing and dumbing down of black people.
Mm-hmm.
Not all, but most. And they called it what it was: segregation.
Which is white.
All right, so he admits that segregation dumbed down and brainwashed black people. I don't know why he's not calling this racism, but hey, that's him.
Separated the blacks. So
What
they
were the
thought
laws?
That under the Jim Crow laws, that white
Jim
black
Crow is
could be
white
together.
supremacy, Jesse. You're going back to white
It was
supremacy.
a government that created those laws.
It was the
White
government.
people didn't create those laws.
All right, the government was fully white, so yes, white people did create those laws.
The government was run by white supremacists.
Let me just
Jesse.
finish the point, though.
But the government was run by white supremacists. The government is not some
Hold on.
mindless
How many times are
entity.
you going to say white supremacy?
Because
man?
you're using all these
You've
words and
already
you're
said
talking
it
about
100
the same.
times.
But Jesse, calm down, Jesse.
But let me ask you this
I don't
question.
want your coon energy to jump off on me.
Let me ask you this question.
But Jesse, you're using different terms for white supremacy, though, brother. You understand that? Jim Crow was white supremacy.
Okay.
You got that?
So if
Correct.
your parents called it what it was, why did you deviate from that and call it white supremacy?
Because I'm telling you, brother, it was all the same thing. You saying that black people were more decent, they were decent, and they still were subjugated to white supremacy back in your day when you were growing up. And you grew up in Alabama. I lived in Alabama too. See, we got a lot in common, Jesse. See, the thing is,
Yes, both of your Coon levels are over 9,000. Jessie has choice ignorance of racial bias. And you, tyriq Nasheed, you have choice pride. In fact, you have a very high pride of white people. And you see them up top. And the more racist the white person is, the more higher you see them. It's sad.
what part of Alabama were you in?
I live near Montgomery.
Okay, I was in
Tuskegee, Montgomery.
Yeah, I was in Birmingham and Leeds and all that stuff. And The thing is, when you're around hardcore white supremacy, and it was hardcore even when I was growing up in the 80s in Alabama, two things are going to happen to a black person. Either they're going to comply with white supremacy or they're going to rebel. Now, you and I, we grew up in the same state, basically. I rebel against white supremacy, and you complied with it. Now, I would like to know
Maybe
what
that's
happened.
why you're controlled by white people now.
What happened with you?
All right. So yeah, Jessie definitely applied or very much is docile to white supremacy, but Tyriq Nasheed is not helping anybody by going around and freaking upping these supposed white supremacy bigots. He's not helping out anybody. Just a fucking idiot.
You can call it whatever. I don't.
But is that what you're saying for the understanding?
Redistributed resources that were maldistributed because blacks had their resources maldistributed. We were denied things, and it was codified by the government. Do you agree with that?
Meaning reparations, right?
Well, we were denied things that were codified by the government. The government
Like
sanctioned.
No, the land that we got from after the wars was not. Well, actually, it was kind of reparations. It was like Sherman's reparations, in that he thought that people should get 40 acres and a mule. So that could be the original reparation, but that was taken away by the government and by Johnson. So yeah.
Exactly.
With jobs, housing, health, all types of not reparations, but all types of resources that were given to the dominant society. The dominant society is meaning white supremacists. They've been giving reparations for the last 200 or 300 years.
Amazing.
So, right.
And so you want reparations for white people, exactly. You want them to stop being white supremacists.
Reparations from white people, or the resources that were generated from free African labor.
Okay, to be fair to Jessie, many of the people who actually were slaves in America, all of them are dead, and their descendants are hard to tell which is which, since we had black immigration to America. I mean, I know my family only been here for like 40 years. So, yeah, it's kind of a little murky.
For free African labor, there would be no wealth in this country, Jessie.
I think that that's a little bit of an exaggeration. There would still be long oak trees, fertile land. I mean, a whole bunch of shit that's in America that was pretty nice. Oil. So no, I don't agree with that.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree.
Okay, where did it come from? Where did the wealth of this country come from if it wasn't for free African labor?
The hard work of the men and women, the good men and women of this country.
So the free African labor weren't good men and women?
Let me ask you this.
So the free...
All right, so I have to agree with Jessie on this one, and partly agree with Tyriq. Much of the South and the North was built because of free African labor, but that doesn't really mean that we should get like reparations, because it's hard to tell which person was a descendant of African slaves and which person just immigrated to America. Plus, I don't know who's going to pay for these reparations, so both sides are correct in their own individual way.
They were not having abortions. Right. They were not having truckloads of children out of wedlock.
Exactly.
Why were blacks more decent and love was right and did was right, with the laws being there against them, than they are able to do today? And they were not victims. They didn't blame anyone.
All right. So he equates the whole thing with the golden age of black patriarchy, when black people actually had a higher employment, a higher marriage rate than white people, which actually happened. And a lot of people see oh, Jim Crow helped out black people. No. Correlation does not equal causation. The reason why we did is mostly due to cultural influences and black people staying together. And it kind of was not the really empowerment of women by i.e. the welfare state, and the total outright destruction of the black family by i.e. the welfare state, and kind of the whole empowerment consciousness wave that black people had, where we kind of took it a little bit too far, where we decided to rebel against the family and all that shit.
And you know that in spite of that, he didn't have that hatred in his heart. And his family was sold, his brother died off, and all kind of stuff happened to the man.
Yep.
But he didn't hate. And as a result of not hating, he became a primary figure in America, a good example for mankind. He founded Tuskegee Institute. And he too was hated by the race hustlers, the so-called talented 10.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. W.E.D. Du Bois, the fucking traitor. The guy who backed Planned Parenthood and said a number of things about light-skinned people being better than dark-skinned people. Look it up.
All those people who were blaming white folks. Do you admire him?
I love Booker T. Washington.
And
you know
what
why?
did you love about him?
I love Booker T. Washington because he learned how to hustle white supremacists. He knew how to get out there and get all that money from those white supremacist philanthropists, and he would go to black people and say, cast down your buckets where you are. He gave a very famous speech that a lot of black people were upset about. They kind of thought he was cooning a little bit too, but secretly, you look at his autobiography and his diary, Booker T. Washington couldn't stand white supremacists, and he secretly funded black radical groups at the time, and this is why the federal government had to put agents on him like R.R. Moten and all.
The federal government put agents on all black major leaders, no matter what their politics was. And I don't know if Booker T. Washington had this secret hatred of white supremacists, and even if he did, that's not a big major thing. Who the fuck loves white supremacists, except for Tyriq Nasheed?
These people to kind of.
Who told you all that?
I read.
You made that. Who did you read that from?
I read. There's a lot of books about Booker T. Washington that you need to really read up on. There's a lot of. He couldn't stand white supremacists.
Wow. Booker T. Washington, the secret radical because he couldn't stand white supremacists. Next, you're going to hear about is Ben Carson, the secret radical who couldn't stand KKK members burning his house down. Ooh.
He got that money and he...
That's not true about him.
Oh, that is
Booker
true.
T. Washington was not into the white supremacy thing.
Oh, yeah,
and
he was. He knew what the game was.
Booker T. talked about the black race hustlers back then.
It's documented
as
fact.
they are
today. He was conning. He was hustling.
W.D. Du Bois and all those guys hated Booker T. because he wasn't... hated the white man
was hustling, and I love that.
That's not true.
Booker T. Washington, yes, he did.
It's
just like you're hustling the white supremacists too, and that's why I like you. That's why I'm here. Usually, people who are classified as coons, I don't mess with them.
All right, so at least he gives some justification of why the fuck he's on this guy's channel. But both of their coon levels are over 5,000 to me. They're both white suprema puppets.
That's why I like you, Jesse. You know how to stick to it.
The president said that it was
wrong. Because the
wrong
name of the game is to
sides.
always deny white supremacy. Always deny it. But don't oversell it, though, Jesse. Don't oversell it. Because if you start overselling it, they're going to do you like Omarosa and throw you up out of the game. See,
let me just clear up for you and for the audience.
Yes.
I don't believe there's no such thing as white supremacy.
Yes, you do. But,
but
they have to pay you to not believe it. They have to pay you to deny it.
Hold on. There's no such thing as racism.
The name of the game is to deny white supremacy, disparage black people for the white supremacists, and deflect into the Democrats and the liberals.
All right. No such thing as racism.
I would like the name of the game to be just stopping race bigotry, no matter what it is, no matter who it's against. I mean, this whole white supremacy shit, if it's making you say white supremacists are the smartest people on earth, then that's just whoa.
Right.
No such thing as sexism, homophobism, Islamophobism. It's either right or wrong, good or evil.
He couldn't have just said Islamophobic, and no, of course, this guy's basically denying human bigotry as it is. And he's an idiot.
The other mess is this. But the president said about that riot in Virginia there that it was wrong to hate one another, that we need love.
Yeah.
And so why would you take a message?
If we need love, then why would the president say that a whole football team is a bunch of sons of a bitches? Just hypocrite.
Said about that riot in Virginia there that it was wrong to hate one another, that we need love.
Yeah.
And so why would you take a message of love and say that he promoted white supremacy?
So, well, Donald Trump has been promoting white supremacy all of his adult career. Donald Trump has had housing discrimination against black people going back.
Correct. And he called for the Central Park 5 to be killed. And they were found innocent, by the way.
The 70s. He has job discrimination going back to the I mean, it's not.
That is so amazing.
Would
a white supremacy do good?
That's either true or it's not. I mean, it's documented.
Would a white supremacist do good toward black people?
But you do acknowledge that Donald Trump has housing discrimination laws, lawsuits.
Show me one person on earth who own a house or apartment and don't discriminate.
Oh, so it's okay.
I can show you many people on earth who doesn't discriminate on the basis of race because they're not racist. Is that good enough, Jessie? Who the hell? I mean, who does that? That's like me saying, show me one person on earth who haven't killed. And, oh yeah, and I accept the killing of bugs in the same way as the killing of actual human beings. Go.
Discriminate against the law. The law says you're not supposed to discriminate. So we just disrespecting the law now. Are we disrespecting the Constitution and the law?
If the law is a bad law, yes.
Okay, there you go. So white supremacy is a bad law, and we should be against that. And I agree with you, Jesse. I 100% agree with you. We're on the same page.
Do you discriminate?
Discriminate how?
Do you discriminate?
I'm not in a position to discriminate against anybody.
Do you discriminate?
I'm not in a position to systematically discriminate against anybody. We're talking about
a simple question.
All right, so of course he discriminates. I mean, of course he discriminates. He discriminates on who he chooses to be friends. He discriminates on who he chooses to let in his house. The real discrimination that we should worry about is discrimination based on things that people cannot help, like their race. I mean, that's one of the big things.
Talking about a system.
Do you discriminate?
You haven't defined discriminate as far as systematic.
So
how can I systematically discriminate?
Let me ask again.
Jesse,
would a white supremacist do good by black people?
Don't oversell it, Jesse. How can me discriminate against somebody systematic and do good
by black people?
Systematically, you have to keep black people collect.
All right, guys, so I'm just going to end it right here. So this has been a disgusting show of absolute coon mindset that is totally disgusting and deplorable. So I'm going to end it right here. Please like, subscribe, share the video. And guys, I am out. This was just a horrible video. Just overall. Just a horrible, trashy video. Boop, 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 boop.